They told us about the meteor 3 months ago. I actually found out through Reddit. Just woke up one morning to find articles at the top of every sub, gilded and stickied, as if a beloved celebrity had just died. Which was kinda accurate. After going to a few more sites and turning on the news, I confirmed it wasn't a joke. There was a meteor heading towards the earth, and no one would be able to stop it. We were all going to die. But hey, don't panic. They said on the news. They didn't offer any reason not to panic, of course, so it made the command a little difficult to follow. To help ease the panic, they locked down cities and towns. Massive amounts of people coming and going would just cause chaos, so no one would be allowed to leave for a few weeks. I assumed they meant cities like LA or New York, but sure enough military blockades popped up on every possible exit of my little Colorado town. Seemed like overkill. The phone lines were immediately busy, and no one seemed to be able to get through. I managed to get a single email to my mother before the internet went, with water and plumbing not far behind. They started rationing out food and water, but it was never enough. Everyone was scared, hot, hungry, and bored, all at the same time, constantly, for a month. I mean, living in hellish conditions and being unable to reach your family is already pretty tough. Add in the fact that there was a literal countdown in the center of town tracking how many days we had left before our horrible painful deaths, and, well, it wasn't much fun. The entire town's supply of booze, and we disappeared at a record pace. Whatever threads keeping us sane were straining. And then they introduced the Stardust machines. They set up a giant wood platform in the middle of town, across from the countdown, and that alone was interesting enough to draw most of the town over. At the center was a large sleek silver pod attached to some serious generators. According to the presenter, these pods were sent to towns and cities across the nation. Our bodies are made from the same stuff as stars, they said, and to the stars our bodies will return. Apparently, they would allow you to relieve the happiest part of your life, and then provide relief. Permanent relief. It was a suicide machine. At first, we were outraged, disgusted. A mob broke out before the presentation continues, and they probably would have torn the platform to shreds if there weren't armed guards. But then they cut our food rations. Twice. Summer was in full swing, and there wasn't enough water in the world to keep us cool. The highlight of that month was when I managed to catch and cook a squirrel over a fire. 2 weeks after the introduction, someone volunteered. Tom was his name, I think. I recognized him partially as the pub's constant customer, but mostly from how he nearly died sobering up when the booze ran out. He hadn't been the same since. About half the town watched. The other half was still disgusted and outraged and whatnot, but we were bored and curious. That was enough to stick around. The pod opened, and he climbed in without any fuss. The window stayed open, and we could clearly see him sitting in the padded chair. The scientists powered it up. Tom's eyes popped wide for a moment, but then he smiled. He relaxed into the chair, looked up towards the sky, and smiled. Slowly, starting at his feet, light began to engulf him. It danced upwards, a gorgeous array of colors and shapes, until he was completely immersed. I could faintly hear his laughter. When the lights faded, he was gone. Literally, the pod was entirely empty. Such was the process of turning into stardust, I guess. In the coming days, a few more people volunteered. Then more. And more. Every day, at least one person would come forward to turn into the stuff of stars. The entire town came to watch now, or what was left of it anyway. It was a spectacle, and not just because of the lights, though those were more incredible than anything I could hope to describe. It was the looks on people's faces as they died. It was intoxicating. It wasn't an orgasmic bliss or some drug-addled euphoria. It was a wholesome, innocent joy. It was the face of a mother holding her child for the first time, of a child discovering a puppy beneath a Christmas tree, of someone finally saying I do. Slowly, there was a shift in the town. The Stardust machine was more than an escape from a miserable life or painful inevitable death. It was a game. You know how so many people like to guess what house they'd be sorted into in Harry Potter? It was like that. People wanted to guess what their joy would be, and they were ecstatic to finally experience it. There was a waiting list to die. I, on the other hand, was still petrified of the whole process. I'd seen mothers turn to stardust with their children on their laps, all laughing together, and it absolutely terrified me. What if I didn't have a happy enough memory? What if the machine went out when it was halfway through my body? But with only a day left, I knew what I needed to do. I went home, got the half bottle of vodka I'd been saving for doomsday, and started drinking. My plan was to get drunk enough to let them kill me. To let me kill myself. Instead, I drank so much that I passed out in my basement. When I finally woke up and managed to get myself on my feet, I had a new fear. What if I didn't get to the Stardust machine before the meteor came? Well, sure enough, when I got to the center of town the pod was gone. So were the scientists, and so were the guards. The countdown read 0. I was going to die painfully and alone. That realization was more terrifying than hearing about the meteor. More terrifying than running out of food. I'd had the opportunity to go out peacefully, happily, beautifully, and I'd been a coward. A mix of panic and adrenaline set in, and I raced through my little town. Eventually, I found a truck. The keys were on the dashboard. With guards to stop me, I burst through the blockade fence and swerved around the concrete barriers. There was a real city, not too far, that might still be stardusting, if I could just reach it. I didn't make it close. In fact, I only made it about 10 miles out of my town, before stumbling on a gas station on the side of the highway. People were filling up their cars. The horrors of the past 3 months flashed in my mind, and evaporated as I saw a man casually talking on his phone. I stared at him. I couldn't move. He seemed weirded out and left. I've been at this gas station for 5 hours. I bought an old phone and plugged it into the truck. There's no mention of the meteor anywhere. The Reddit posts are gone. Even my own submissions are gone, replaced with random poop I've never posted. The email to my mother was never sent. I found my own obituary. I don't know what to do and I don't know what the frick is going on. I hope I'm insane. I hope they're all still alive.